Nestled into a rolling hillside north of San Francisco, Skywalker Ranch is the command center of George Lucas's filmmaking empire. I first came here to interview Joseph Campbell, a friend and mentor to George Lucas. 12 years later, I came back, this time to interview the protege. After a 22-year hiatus, George Lucas is back in the director's chair with a new episode in his Star Wars epic, The Phantom Menace. I wanted to know why he thought the Star Wars saga had grasped such a hold on our collective imaginations. Over the course of an afternoon, we talked about myths and movies, fathers and sons, fantasy and imagination. Joseph Campbell said that all the great myths, the primitive myths, the great stories have to be regenerated if they're going to have any impact, and that you had done that with Star Wars. Are you conscious of doing that? Are you saying, I am trying to recreate the myths of old? Or are you saying, I just want to make a good action movie?
Well, when I did Star Wars, I consciously set about to recreate myths and the classic mythological motifs. And I wanted to use those motifs to deal with issues that existed today. You know, Joe used to talk about the basic issues that create the mystery of life, of, you know, birth and death. And I like to always add, you know, your relationship with your parents.
And I'm wondering, did you have such a mentor when you were growing up? Is this part of the movie an extension of what happened to you?
Obviously, my first mentor was my father, but then you progress with either, you know, people that are more skilled in a particular area than you are. In film, Francis Coppola became my mentor and taught me how to write screenplays, taught me how to work with actors. I was much more of a cameraman and a film editor, much more on the technical side of things. And, you know, I think my last mentor probably was
Joseph Campbell.
Joe Campbell, who asked a lot of the interesting questions and exposed me to a lot of things that made me very interested in a lot more of the cosmic questions and the mystery. And I've been interested in those all my life, but I hadn't focused it the way I had once I got to be good friends with Joe.
A professor I know said that he recently asked his freshman class how many of them had seen all three of the trilogy, and everyone in the class raised his hand. And he said to me, I hope Lucas knows he's mentoring an entire generation of young Americans.
I have a philosophy that we all teach, and we all teach every day of our lives. And it's not necessarily what we lecture. I've discovered kids don't like lectures at all. But it is really the way we live our lives and what we do with our lives and the way we conduct ourselves. And once in a while they listen to the lectures. So when I make the films, I'm very aware of the fact that I'm teaching on a much larger scale than I would just as a parent or somebody walking through life, because I have this megaphone. Anybody in the media has a very large megaphone that they can reach a lot of different people. And so whatever they say, whatever they do, however they conduct themselves, whatever they produce has an influence and is teaching somebody something. And I try to be aware of what it is I'm saying.
What do you make of the fact that so many people have interpreted Star Wars as being profoundly religious?
I don't see Star Wars as profoundly religious. I see Star Wars as taking all of the issues that religion represents and trying to distill them down into a more modern and more easily accessible construct that people can grab onto to accept the fact that there is a greater mystery out there. When I was 10 years old, I asked my mother, I said, well, there's only one God. Why are there so many religions? And over the years, I've been pondering that question ever since, and it would seem to me that the conclusion I've come to is that all the religions are true. They just see a different part of the elephant. A religion is basically a container for faith. Faith is the glue that holds us together as a society. Faith in our culture, our world, our whatever it is that we're trying to hang on to, is a very important part of I think allowing us to remain stable, remain balanced. I put the Force into the movies in order to try to awaken a certain kind of spirituality in young people. More a belief in God than a belief in any particular, religious system. I mean, the real question is to ask the question, because if you haven't enough interest in the mysteries of life to ask the questions: is there a God or is there not a God? That's for me the worst thing that can happen. If you ask a young person, is there a God, and they say, I don't know. I think you should have an opinion about that.
Do you have an opinion, or are you looking?
Well, I think there is a God. No question. What that God is, or what we know about that God, I'm not sure. The one thing I know about life and about the nature of the human race is that the human race has always believed it's known everything. Even the cavemen thought they had it all figured out, and they knew everything there was to know about everything, because that's where mythology came from. It's constructing some kind of context for the unknown. So we figured it all out. It was fine. I would say that cavemen had on a scale understood about 1. Now we've made it up to about 5. The only thing that most people don't realize is the scale goes to 1 million.